Hello, everyone. This is Warhawk Beyond 2040, and welcome to the final edition and follow-up of the success and failures of the Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, Batwoman, and Legends of Tomorrow. And we are joined once again with the one and only, the badass himself, RexDaBoss11. Rex, it's great to have you here once again. Hope you're doing okay.
Yeah, it is great to be back. Hey guys, how's it going? Let's talk about the successes and failures of Black Lightning.
Okay, so this is what we've kind of been building up to for a really long time, ever since we started talking about all of the Arrowverse shows. And Black Lightning came out in 2018, 6 years ago now. And I'm going to be perfectly honest here. This show probably is more controversial and polarizing than Batwoman and all of the other Arrowverse shows put together. Rex, we're going to start with you first. What was your thoughts on Black Lightning getting his own show?
I mean, at the time, I was really excited. I feel like it was one of those, moments where they obviously were focusing around a black character. They obviously were doing
Yeah,
what they were doing to give this character the sort of spotlight. Now, a lot of that stopped straight away after he was, I think he was put in one of the crossover ones, wasn't he?
yeah, the Crisis crossover.
Now, the origin story to this character at the start, to the first first half of the first season, like, yeah, there was no problem with that and what they delivered. And I'll be perfectly honest up front right now, I did not watch a single episode after the first season, first half of the first season, like mid-season break, due to reasons that I'll get into as we go along to do with the Arrowverse itself. But when this first came out, it was like, yeah, this has got so much potential. This character's kind of sick still, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you knew that this had potential to be something. Like, I understood where they were going, what they were trying to do, and just like the other Arrowverse programs, one of the biggest problems was you could kind of see from the very start that this was going to be like a team thing.
yeah,
They
yeah.
had Raiden, they had the guy who played Raiden, didn't they, in this program? James Remar, James
James
Remar.
Remmer, that's it. Yeah, he's a really good actor. He's a
But
really
yeah,
good
he was in
actor.
there, and it's weird because now I think back now, and I think, you know what, to have someone like that in there as well. Once again, it's one of these obscure but known actors, and they could have just done a bit more, couldn't they? He seemed
Yeah.
more. He actually seemed more of a hindrance, to be fair, to Black Lightning towards and I'm pretty sure he's at some point as well.
At one point in this one of the later seasons, he did kind of turn on him, but
Yeah,
he had a good reason why he turned on him.
if there be
My
such a thing,
well,
if there
you
be,
know what? If you know, like
go
we
on.
always say, good people do, bad things.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm right. He was in The Quest with Jean-Claude Van Damme. He was also in The Phantom with whoever he
Billy
was
Z-
in, Alec,
Billy Zane.
Alec Billy Zane, and he was also in Mortal Kombat Annihilation. So yeah, this is definitely the same guy that I'm on about.
Yeah,
He was in Too Fast, Too Furious as well, wasn't he? Because he was a cop. He was a
yeah,
cop in one of them.
that's
But then,
right.
he was in X-Men First Class apparently as well. But and he was
Own
in,
it. Yeah,
he's he's very well known anyway. He's very well known. Django. Yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Oppenheimer he's been in recently, still
yeah.
acting to this very day, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it had him in it, and I knew from straight away, I thought, oh, here we go, we're going to get into this team building thing that we've got in every Team Black Lightning now. It's like, oh, here we go.
Oh no. Well, when they first announced that Black Lightning was getting his own show, I thought, okay, he was the last guy I would expect to have his own show because he was never one of the big names like The Flash or Supergirl. I mean, he was kind of like the guy on the other side. I mean, the closest thing he was ever in media was the old Super Friends shows in the 70s to the mid 80s. So I was quite intrigued. I thought, how are they going to pull this off? Because Black Lightning, he doesn't have a great big rogues gallery. He's not one of the big heavy hitters, as I said, but I thought this could have potential to be interesting. And I thought, I can't see this guy having a long career like the other characters had in their own shows. I probably would think that Black Lightning's going to have maybe 2 seasons the most, and he'll just be one of those guys who'll just pop up in the crossovers every so often. But yeah, I mean, I like the guy who played Black Lightning, Cress Williams, a brilliant actor. James Remmer, as you mentioned, been around forever, excellent actor. They had quite a good, decent cast. I was quite impressed that they put together quite a solid cast. And the first season, especially the first 8 episodes, were really good. But the last 2 episodes kind of went a little bit downhill for me. And also, the interesting thing about Black Lightning was they kept making a point of saying this is not connected to the Arrowverse. You are never ever going to see Black Lightning meet the Flash or Green Arrow or any of those guys. The most they mentioned about the Arrowverse was Jefferson's daughter saying, "I want to be like Supergirl when I'm older." That's the most we ever got, and that was in season 1. So I thought, okay, you don't want the show to be part of the Arrowverse, fair enough, but is Black Lightning strong enough to go that long without mixing it up with the Arrowverse guys? I wasn't 100% confident if he could do that, because it would be different if it was someone like Batman or Superman. They can coast along because of their name. But Black Lightning, he didn't really have any star power to his name, unfortunately. But I have to give them props, though, for wanting to try something completely different because, you know, some of the more obscure DC characters you would never even consider giving them
Yeah,
a TV show.
I think I've got an answer for why Black Lightning
I think
was.
I know why, but go for it.
It's obviously the racial diversity and the
Absolutely.
diversity, and I'm not gonna skip over that. Obviously, I am of color myself, so I'm not gonna
Of
skip over
course.
that. I'm not gonna skip over that point, whether it's controversial to other people or not. But yes, the DC universe screamed in this period here. We need to have as many lesbians, as many black people, as many
Oh,
Mexicans,
God.
as many, or sorry, but as many Hispanic or whatever people that are on the show, to be able to make it so that it's not just because of all this Canadian not paying everybody like high fees and all this. It was weird. It was just weird stuff that I didn't understand, and I still don't understand to this day. And it cost people, you know, like series, like the Batgirl series and other series. It cost series because of the paranoia to have so much diversity, and every female character had to be this empowered woman who was either a lesbian or was something else. You know what I mean? It got to the point where it was like they turned off their actual original audience by throwing things down our throat that was unnecessary. We don't always need to have a gender deficient superhero, and we don't always need to have a love interest for the superhero either. So it's like, yeah, Black Lightning is one of those things where, although it was good, it was so obvious from moment one that it was to do. This character got this role, but ahead of Nightwing, ahead of Robin, ahead of any of those types of characters there, that Firestorm, that kind of deserved their own series. This
Absolutely.
this character got a series because of diversity. Yeah.
Of course, it's so obvious. And the thing with that is, okay, on one side, I was really grateful that Black Lightning was getting his own show, but at the same time, not so much in season 1, but as you get to like season 2 and about halfway into season 3, yeah, you can kind of see why
Yeah, you
they
can't deny
gave
it.
him.
Every team had it. Every team had a white girl, like a mixed race, or a black girl, a black boy, a white guy. You know what I mean? Depending on who the superhero was, every team started to get an amalgamation of female and male characters that were either, if it was a normal sort of girl who didn't have any connection to the actual storyline, she'd be either a lesbian or she'd be some kind of non-binary type of person. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
they went, and I've got no problem with that. But it's just the way that they went super scion with that. And it's like, all of a sudden it'd be like having the Power Rangers, and because you want to add in diversity, before you know it, all 5 of the Power Rangers are of color, and they're
yeah,
all either gay or bisexual or gender. It's a bit too far. We don't, no person of color or no person with gender or no person with certain issues, you don't need it forcing down your throat and so obvious. When it's like that, the programs can run without that. Some of these characters, there was no sign that they had any. you know, like gay or anything like that. Like,
No.
and then all of a sudden, it's mad. It's like you've got to sit there and say, "Oh, right, well, they've made this character like this, then so okay, then they do it again, then they do it with another one, then it goes from male to female to another, like to where it's like you then get in non-Pacific characters in even in towards the end of some of these series, which are like, you know, no, they're not even identifying as anything.
No, I mean, I totally get what you mean. It's just like they were really going out of their way to make a point of doing that, and they weren't even trying to hide it either. That's the thing that really wound me up the most was you're not even trying to hide the fact that you're doing this show for these reasons. I mean, it's not even a case of we just want to tell a good story and have a good
Yeah,
superhero show.
it was mental because it's almost like they felt like they'd done something wrong at some point with one of the characters, and then they were so scared that it would turn into be some kind of criticism. You know, above all, the female empowerment in the program, the toughening of females, and the less sexualization of the women. So it's like they're lesbians and they're this and they're that, like to prevent them sort of being looked at as sort of eye candy.
Yeah.
In that later series of the Arrow and Flash, and in them early series of some of the other ones, it was mad when they started changing the women and making them so that you can't, no, you know, no legs on display, no skin on display, no this, no that, no the other.
Yeah, totally. I think, when they did announce Black Lightning, a small part of me, and obviously they didn't do this, but I had a small glimmer of hope. I thought, okay, I know what Black Lightning is. I remember him in the Justice League comics. He's appeared in a couple of episodes of the animated series. I thought maybe, just maybe, and obviously they never did it. I thought maybe this could lead to a Static Shock spin-off. Maybe Virgil Hawkins could come in for 2 episodes, and maybe this could lead to him getting his own show because I really wanted a Static Shock show so badly. I thought, okay, if we won't get a Static Shock show, at least we might have him appear in Black Lightning for 2 episodes, or maybe even 3 if it does really well. But we never got that, and I was really disappointed because I had major hopes for Static Shock, but we got Black Lightning instead. I thought, okay, I'm all right with that, but I would have liked.
You know who should have got this? This should have been a series based around the version of Killer Croc that they designed in the Justice League sort of series or the cinematic universe, where he's like not in his own brain, he's not a bad guy, he's just trying to survive in that. This
Yeah,
should have been one of them type of things, or like a King Shark type of program based on one of the more villain characters, but they're not always villains, if you know what I mean.
yeah,
I'd have
yeah,
taken I'd have taken Nightwing, I'd have taken any of them, but because let's be fair, Black Lightning was kind of like that. He wasn't everybody's favorite cup of tea, and one of the main reasons why they said that, and I didn't respond to this before, and I should have, but the reason why they said, "Oh, we don't want him part of the Arrowverse," is because the Arrowverse was falling apart.
Oh, big time. By 2018, the Arrowverse was slowly starting to fall apart. What was once, you know, this amazing shared television universe that was pretty much giving the cinematic universe a run for their money, it was starting to fall apart very slowly. And I think Black Lightning was kind of like done as an answer of desperation as to, right, what can we do to get interest back? We're never going to get Batman, so that's out the window. We've got Batwoman in the pipeline, so that's coming. What else can we do? How about Black Lightning?
See
All right then.
that's another problem, isn't it? And we've said this on one of the previous retrospective things. It's the fact that they spent almost 10 years looking to try to get something that seemed like Batman on the screen. Now they
Yeah,
had that with Arrow, but they chose to phase that out and go in a different direction. So trying to scramble to get another sort of dark Batman type of character, it just reminded everybody, oh yeah, they can't have Batman in these programs, can they?
no. Well, it was never going to happen. Now, the big difference with Black Lightning to the other shows, as you mentioned at the beginning, it was the whole team thing. But with Black Lightning, you did have the team dynamic, but they were more like a family. And that appealed
Yeah,
to
you
me a
could
little
see where it
bit.
was going. You could see where it was going. And like I said, once again, the first 10 episodes I was really interested in. Oh, so these are his daughters, then.
Yeah. and he's like, and Gambi was like the uncle slash like friend of the family, the unofficial
Yeah.
uncle. And I liked that. I thought, okay, we've
Uh,
never really seen that in the other Arrowverse shows. A lot of these people were just either friends of Barry or Oliver from the past, or
mm.
people they met at work. But these guys were like a close knit family. Like, Jefferson had, as you said, two
Well,
daughters and a wife.
at the time, it was good to watch because it's obvious that Jefferson didn't want his daughters to get involved in being superheroes, even though that like he'd spoken to Ray Moradini to Gambi, and Gambi had told him like your daughters are more than likely going to be expressing powers at some point because
Yeah,
they were born after you got your powers, and the way that around that time there was a lot of fascination where Arrowverse was jumping in and out of all these fast forwards to the future, Crisis on Future Earths or whatever it was. So you started to see like, oh, it's not just the powered people; they've got kids in the future that are powerful.
yeah,
You know what I
that's right.
mean?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was inevitable that Black Lightning would meet one of them. I didn't think that he was going to meet all of them. I thought he's going to be probably make a cameo in one of the shows, because you cannot go that long on the CW, all these shows, and not have Black Lightning meet any of them. It just wasn't going to happen because, as I said, as great as Black Lightning is, he's not a strong character. And really and truly, I mean, I'm quite amazed Black Lightning got 4 seasons. I thought, yeah, it'll probably get two.
What, this
And
program got 4 seasons?
it did.
I thought it was done after 2.
No, it got 4.
That's mad. That is mad.
I
That
know.
is
I
mad.
never
I
thought
thought
it'd
this
get to
program was done
4.
after 2.
I thought it would be done after 2. No, it got 4. It actually got 4 seasons, but by season 4, yeah, it was pretty much a burned out car, really. It just had nothing left because, as I said before, with Black Lightning, he hasn't got a great rogues gallery.
I'm presuming that they just brought in some of the other characters' rogues gallery of the actors that they already had under contract or whatever.
Right, his main villain in the show was a villain called Tobias. He was kind of like an albino,
Yeah. I know what you're on about. Yeah. I
and
know
he
the actor who
actually
plays them as well.
he's a big actually he's a big man like star power wise. He's a big man himself. His name is Marvin Jones.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah, yeah,
rapper
yeah,
called
yeah.
Crondon. He's a big name
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. I know you're on about. Yeah, now you mention it. Yeah, it's got weird eyes as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's got like these. He's got blue eyes, but they look like ice.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
got these really pale ice-like eyes. He's quite a big hench guy. I mean,
Marvin Jones the third.
that's right. His rap name's
Yeah. Well,
Crondon.
he talks like a proper like rude
He's
boy though, don't he?
he's a
Like
proper
American gangster.
he's a proper ghetto. Like, he's a proper ghetto guy. Yeah, and he's got that thick voice and accent. Yeah, he played Tobias. He was kind of like Lex Luthor slash Kingpin. You knew he was a
Oh yeah,
villain.
Tobias Whale.
Yeah, yeah, you knew he was a villain, but he couldn't prove it. And they went. It's been done before in loads of these sort of shows. But yeah, he was the main villain. But that was it. I can't really think of any other villains, like in terms of main villain status, that really dominate the show. I mean, it looked like they were done with Tobias after season 1. They would bring him back for a few episodes, but as time went on, it was like, we've got no other villains. Let's just use him again. But he was good. I thought he was quite an intimidating presence on the show. He's a big hench guy, and I thought he was a really good actor. What was your thoughts on him?
Yeah, you know what? He was believable and he was a decent actor. Now I've come to think of it, and now I've seen a picture of him. I remember him being in the program. I will point upon the fact that this was a bit convoluted as well, Black Lightning, because he was an older supervillain that had laid his powers dormant
Yeah,
for many years until something had happened with this whale guy, and he decided to come out of retirement because
that's
obviously
right.
Raymar knew who he was, didn't he? Yeah, Gambi knew who he was.
Gambi.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was friends with his dad.
So it was explained that the reason why he wasn't involved in anything in the past, like stuff that was going on with maybe Batman or anything like that, less of he wasn't in their universe and more of he's just been doing what Captain Marvel did, just not getting involved in anything for a while.
Yeah, that's right. Because when the show starts, and this is what made it a bit different to the other Arrowverse shows. They didn't do the whole origin thing. He was already Black Lightning, but he'd been retired for like 20 years or
Yeah,
so.
it's because of something that bad things happen when he does all the electricity and stuff, isn't it? And the lightning and that.
Yeah. I thought that was really good. I thought, okay, this is a bit different because we've never really had that in these shows. Usually they go straight into the origin
Well,
and
let
then
me
like,
ask a question though, because I'm thinking now this had another one of those wife got killed or something things, didn't it?
no, his wife is alive, and I believe they were divorced in the show.
Oh, okay. Thank heavens for that, because that was another problem that the CW kept. I know a lot of the characters have got this parents are dead sort of, but they were giving it to every character, weren't they? Like there was no explanation of who these people's parents were.
No, the parents were both alive. Jefferson and his wife were both divorced, and I think the daughters were living with the mum.
Yeah, was it to do with his anger as well, why the wife had left him or something like that, or like
I,
something had happened, hadn't they? And then obviously she left him because he didn't stick up for himself or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
I think they explained that the reason why she left him was because she felt that he was putting his crime fighting life first before his family, and whenever stuff would
Oh,
happen,
yeah, 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 yeah,
she
yeah.
would always say to him like, "Don't even think about putting the suit on."
He was dead against it, wasn't he? At first, like you don't know what type of problems. It's nearly cost me everything. But really, to us as the fans, that was annoying, wasn't it? It was like,
Yeah,
oh my word, you are actually a superhero, and you dare stand there and talk about thinking. But then we all knew as soon as his daughters get in danger, Black Lightning's coming back out to play.
of course, because if you listen to the opening lyrics of the intro, it says Black Lightning's back.
It would have taken a real. I mean, I know they did it in Smallville, but it
Yeah.
would have taken a real big gamble if they'd have had a character that was referred to as a like Black Lightning, an actual superhero, and not once in the first say 2 series did we ever get to see him transform into Black Lightning. It would have been mad, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't think the show would have lasted that long if they had gone down that path.
This was rushed. I think look like at this, and I think, yeah, this was kind of rushed, wasn't it? Like he should have really not been Black Lightning for a good season. Like
They could have
daughters
showed
sneaking out,
flashbacks. Yeah.
daughters, yes, flashback episodes. I agree with that. Daughters finding out about the flashbacks and all that. Like maybe someone finds some CCTV footage from the 90s or whatever, but the daughters are sneaking out like they were and they're going and using their powers, and this guy's trying to stop them. And then he finds out that Gambi's helping the daughters.
See, what I was kind of hoping, and we never got this, they hinted at it, and I think they did show it. They showed Black Lightning's first costume, and I thought, okay, Gambi's going to probably tell the story about how Jefferson became Black Lightning, and we're going to see his first night on the job. I thought we'll probably get an episode of that. It'll be all flashback. You know what? We never ever got it. I was so disappointed.
Yeah, when I listened to a video, somebody obviously saying some of the failures or whatever of Black Lightning's, the cinema sins or whatever it was, TV sins, and yeah, they were just saying like how on earth did you have such a beautiful origin story for this character? You've finally got a full-fledged sort of black character that you can build around, and you didn't even give this guy the scratch from the start. You put him in there as like a grumpy dad, threat, threatening
Yeah.
up threatening up his daughter's boyfriends about wiping their balls with a towel, and then like
Oh.
asking her to carry it, which is disgusting. But at the same time, it's like I didn't really want to hear that. That's one that actually is one of the only moments and memories that I've got from this program is him bullying his daughter's love interest, who was like an athlete or something.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I remember that.
yeah, like he came out the shower and obviously he's been asking his daughter to finger it. So obviously he questions the youth and the youth says, "Oh no, it's nothing like that. I'm just, we're just holding hands." Probably obviously weren't doing that, but it's like we're just holding hands and like she's just carrying my towel for me. And he's like, "You've been letting my daughter carry the towel that you wipe your ass with."
Yeah, I think I
It's a
remember
good
that.
question. if he was going to play the grumpy dad, like, it needs to be like a movie where you know that at the 94th minute of the movie, fucking Robin Williams turns back into Peter Pan. And I feel like the ingredients was all there. The daughters should have been going out and doing what they were doing. And then eventually he should have found out that Gambi was basically helping the daughters and all that, which he did. But at the same time, it was like all a bit, right, well, I'm just going to become Black Lightning again. And, you know, I'm going straight back into this. And I imagine 2 series later, there was no mention of him not wanting to be Black Lightning or the fact that he'd not been Black Lightning for all that time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting with Jefferson. He is Black Lightning, but then during the day he's a principal. I thought that was quite an interesting dynamic. I thought, okay, you know, most of the Arrowverse characters, Oliver's a billionaire, Barry's the forensic scientist, Supergirl is the reporter, Batwoman is just living off her Bruce Wayne's money.
Yeah.
But
They're not exactly public, like
no,
public servants. They're public figures, as in Ollie and Bruce Wayne. They're public figures, aren't they?
yeah, they are more
You
so,
know,
probably more so Bruce Wayne, but yeah. But I like the idea of a superhero being a principal of a school. I thought, okay, that's new, not different, new. I thought I've never seen that before. I thought that could be interesting, but yeah, the whole grumpy, overprotective dad thing got very old in a hurry because you don't mind it for a couple of episodes, but when you have a whole season, you're like, okay, this is getting a bit old now. But yeah, I totally see what you mean. And that moment you're talking about, one of the daughter's friends coming out of the towel, I thought, why are we having a show like that asking these sort
yeah.
of questions?
And it makes it worse now. You've reminded me that he's the principal as well. Because why on earth is the principal having that conversation? Like, are you more worried about your daughters than anybody else in here? Despite the fact that, because this is the thing that I got from the program. Now I'm thinking back. One of the off-putting things was he wasn't bothered that he needed to protect his daughters. He was bothered that his daughters were going to have to, start saving the world and all that. If you remember, because that's the reason why. It's like he was saying, "Oh, your life will change. People will become reliant on you." And his daughter ended up saying to him, "I want to save people, Dad."
Yeah, I want to do what you do.
The more rebellious, like tomboy one, she just said to him, I know what you were, I know what you can do, and I can do some of the same things. I turned off when the other sister had just, I think, first started realizing that she had her powers, because they've got different powers, haven't they?
Yeah, you've got Jefferson Pierce and the 2 daughters. You've got Jennifer Pierce and Anissa Pierce. Now, Anissa Pierce was the one who's kind of like the older sister, the best, the really thick-looking one. She had 2 personas. She was called Thunder, and then she was called Blackbird. Now, her Thunder persona was obviously when she was with her dad, but her other persona was like one that would help people who are living like in the poor areas. I thought that was quite interesting that one of them had 2 different personas. What did you thought of Anissa?
Yeah, I feel that she had potential, but I also feel that she was overpowered very quickly. Like, there was no need for Black Lightning when you seen what she could do, and then obviously having 2 personas which were pretty much the same. So, it'd be like Nightwing playing Nightwing and Robin at the same time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I liked it and I liked her, but I also felt like this is where the program should have been steered towards Black Lightning becoming Alfred and them two becoming the thing. And he only comes out of retirement when the school is in danger, not when his daughters are in danger. Maybe Tobias sets up a situation where a lot of the school kids are in danger, and Jefferson's got no choice but to obviously reveal himself as Black Lightning. I wouldn't have minded that, but then they did it in a completely different way, which is, to anybody with any common sense, it would have been obvious that this family's got something weird going on. Yeah. But
yeah.
of course, to them, it's like, oh, as long as nobody ever asked us if we're Black Lightning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I thought with Anissa, I thought they were kind of like pushing for her to have her own spin-off because, she had quite a big part in the show. I thought, okay, like you said, that she's going to probably take over. Jefferson will fully retire, only come out when he really has to. So I thought, okay, maybe this is where we're heading. But yeah, they didn't. They never did that, unfortunately.
The thing with the Black Lightning concept is, as well, is like you said before, and like I know, these characters weren't majorly established DC characters by the time that they came around.
Yeah,
So even if we know something about them, they could have gone anyway. It's not like they didn't change some of the other stories and stuff, so they could have gone in any direction. I look at it like having Anita like this clearly showed that she was the more powerful and confident and the more willing one.
yeah.
Like, but it also gave the other sister the sort of, well, I'm going to do this because everybody else is doing this, or I've got to do this because everybody else is doing this.
Anissa character, she started off really good, but then as time went on, she did start to become a bit annoying, and she even became a lesbian at one point, and
Yep,
she got off with some
yep.
Oriental chick.
Because of course we've got to add in the super diversity in the program that's all about the black people, and we can all the black people can get involved. As soon as they turned her into a lesbian, every single black person just turned off.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? And it's not a racial, or it's not a homophobic thing. It's not their cup of tea. You're not appealing to the sort of middle class of African Americans and sort of British black people. You're appealing to the lowest class, because these people were like ghetto people. You know what I mean? Like, they were from not the sort of hood, but they were from at least a rough part of town.
yeah, that's
But
true. When they hooked her up with the Oriental chick, it was so obvious where they were heading with the show.
let's try
One
to
of
get any more eyeballs on the program and not recognize the danger of, if you open one door, it may actually, or if you open one tunnel, it may actually start flooding out another tunnel of people that are already in that tunnel. You know what I mean?
exactly. And the other daughter, that's Jennifer. She actually was one of my favorites. I actually liked her. That's the tomboy daughter. She was actually quite cool. And I thought, now this is someone maybe I could see having their own spin-off show, because she's in high school. She's like the cool kid. Oh no, I'm too cool to be in school. You don't tell me what to do. I'm doing my own thing. I thought maybe she's
Yeah.
got more potential to have
See,
her own show.
see, I get that, because at the time I used to think that myself, and I look back now in hindsight, and I think that's part of the problem as well, is that every single time that they introduced a side character or a third character or whatever, you started sitting there going, this character needs its own show.
Yeah, but that seems to be the theme with the CW. They give us shows that we don't really want to see. So, for example, what show would you like to see? Oh, I'd love a Deathstroke series. How about a Black Lightning series?
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
Black Lightning is one of those shows. It had promise, it had a lot of potential, as you say, but payoff and execution, not so much, I'm afraid. It's a shame, really, because this started off really strong for me, but it just didn't last long. The honeymoon fell off the cliff very quickly. Now, what did you think of Jefferson's wife, Lynn? She was played by Kristen Adams. What did you think of her?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to be bluntly honest. I have absolutely no recollection of who his wife was in the program, or that he had a wife. To be honest, I've come into this thinking that it was another something's happened to the missus, or something's happened to the mom.
Yeah,
So I have no recollection. I mean, maybe later on, of course, the first 8 episodes, I'm not sure how. I can seem to remember there may have been a female that was sort of basically encouraging him to do what he wanted to do, but at the same time, don't you let me down, as in, like, you're not really allowed to be Black Lightning again, but I need you to do what you need to do to be a man, because it was affecting him, obviously. That's the kind of vibe that I got from the woman that I'm thinking, but that could have been a sister or somebody else. It probably was the wife, but it could have been anyone, because I don't really have that much recollection of who his wife was in the program. I just know that it was centered mainly around him, his two daughters coming of age into the powers, sort of, inhuman sort of thing, and then Jeremy Renner, like, basically pulling the strings and doing the Alfred. You know what I mean? And obviously, as you've reminded me about Tobias as well. So that after that, storylines, plot lines, situations, you're just going to have to just, either run through them, or we'll skip to sort of ratings and stuff like that.
yeah. I mean, I'm going to give you a little trivia about this actress in a moment. Um, Lynn Stewart, who was played by Kristen Adams, I thought she did a pretty good job. I thought she was, she's very nice looking as well. I thought she was a good, solid actress, but I felt Not so much the first two
I've heard the
seasons.
name. I've heard the
I'm going to
name.
tell you a little thing about her in a second. I felt the first two seasons she was decent, but I felt the second two seasons more so for I was just sick to death of her. I just thought, right, I've got no problem with you being here, but I kind of would like to see her phased out a bit. Maybe not have her in every single episode.
Yeah, the Felicity Smoke, Iris West, uh,
Yeah.
they overbooked them, the main female, even to where towards the end of Flash, the uh, Joe's wife, who was the cop woman who had the special powers, it just got too much.
Now, Kristen Adams, she had a very, very tiny part, about two scenes in Batman Begins. She played Bruce Wayne's secretary. Now you have to really like watch closely. She had two scenes with Christian Bale, and I thought that was quite amazing because I rewatched Batman Begins many months ago, and I saw her in those two scenes. I thought I know that actress.
So what? She's a DC returner then. She's actually returned to the DC universe in a
Yeah,
different role.
in a different role, but her original role in Batman Begins was so tiny. She she was in like two scenes. She was literally in just two scenes, and that was it. It's one of those scenes that you blink, you miss it, sort of thing.
I mean, like I said, I've heard the name because I think she's been in something else that I've watched as well, where the name sort of rings a bell to my head. Um, so yeah, I've probably seen her in something else. So as soon as I were to see her in Black Lightning, I'd be like, oh yeah, she was out of so and so. Do you know what I mean?
She's actually a British actress. I was just looking her up.
Well, this is the thing about it, is it's because of that Canadian thing, isn't it? They go out to like British Columbia or whatever. They don't get paid as much money, but you're almost guaranteed to get more exposure. So, like once again, like if you back then it started with programs like Smallville, you could get a small role in Smallville. You were bound to get seen by more people than you would if you say you got a regular role on, say, one of the more obscure programs.
And I think this show in particular was definitely the most sitcomish out of all of the Arrowverse shows, I would say, because there was less focus on the powers. I mean, yes, there was powers, but it wasn't really all about the powers. It was more about the family aspects, which worked, but I think it was a bit too much of that.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with that. I agree with you in the extent of, to some people, there's ways of being able to, format like programming and things like Black Lightning and things like that. But in the long run, it's like you've got to get all of these factors into the room. You could see it with the Arrowverse. We could see it with Arrow and Flash in the first couple of series because they didn't really have that much thinking behind the scenes. It was like things would just look great. They obviously filmed maybe 2 episodes of like this flashback thing, and then they decided what would happen if we just sort of squeeze this in to make the rest of the series sort of more tolerable and watchable.
Yeah,
In every series, they should have stuck with that format, apart from maybe the Flash because he came through the Arrow series.
yeah,
Every other series should have been the sort of character starts where Black Lightning started. But just in case you are actually wondering, like what we're gonna get is he's gonna walk down a corridor at some point and he's gonna be thinking, yeah, you know what, I've been through this before, and maybe he's talking, he's saying it to someone, and he's like, I've been through this before. I once fought a guy who's got like, powers over the weather or whatever it is, and it's
yeah,
some kind of like weather wizard or some kind of character like that, yeah. And he's like, you get, your 6 minute flashback into him fighting crime and other shit like that from back in the day. I think a lot of people would have taken better to that than, to be fair, what we got in the long run, which was a little bit underwhelming.
yeah,
Like
totally.
from what I remember, it was a bit underwhelming. And when I did go back and obviously a lot of what I'm watching when I'm watching these sort of reviews of Black Lightning, like throughout recaps and stuff, it features stuff that is just alien to me. I'm just like, I never remember any of these characters. I don't remember any of this stuff. A little bit like there's a few programs with like sort of more gangster characters in there. They had that real ability to build something really dark, but
Yeah,
in the sort of black community world, the sort of underground, sort of Harlem, sort of California, they had some way of being able to build this sort of world within a world within a world where it's more based around black crime and stuff like that. But they did all of the characters, but they did none of the actions. There was none of this like gangbang stuff, gangland type of
No.
stuff. There was none of that behavior in the program. And I just thought, well, where are we going? Are we going that we just this random suburb in America is just full of like random hardworking, but slightly dodgy and thingy black people? It's a bit like, well, what the fuck are they? What do these people think black people are?
I think also with the show, I think, to segue into what you said, I think part of what's made the show suffered was the budget, because they always talked about, gang warfare. It was very heavily racism in this show. They used a lot of like racist swear words and all that. And I think with that sort of theme, if this show had the budget of HBO Max, and
Mm,
we've talked about this quite a lot with HBO
mm.
Max, if they had that budget, just that extra budget, I think we would have been having a very different conversation about this show, because they could have gone to town with those sort of things. But it's the CW, you're never going to see things like that, and I think that's what hurt it in the long run.
I agree. I agree. We have to balance it out from our outlook and say, like, yeah, the key thing is, and I say this, Greg Berlanti and them, they were great producers and great executive producers, but one thing is for sure is they had absolutely no idea how to portray female and ethnic characters.
No,
They would just give you the most random character like Mr. Terrific in Arrow, and then they would just turn him upside down, and it's like, why has she got to be black and lesbian and diverse and a little bit empowered and all this, and why has he got to be black and gay and this and that and the other? Why can't it just be, you've got one gay character, you've got one, no one cares? When you start throwing too much diversity at the wall, when it involves already a diverse type of person, it's a bit mad, isn't it? It's like, what are these
it is.
producers seeing these people as? Like, once again, the wrestling analogy is, who booked this?
Russo.
Yeah, who booked this the way that it is? Because it's a little bit looks mad on paper when you've got all those ingredients already in the pot of, we want to make a diverse show that's got black people in it, blah 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 blah. You have to be very careful how you portray these people.
Well, yeah, that's what hurt it. That
It
is what
says to
hurt the
me,
show.
they didn't make a black show for black people. They made a black show so they couldn't be accused of being, of ostracizing or outcasting black people.
See, again, the thing with that is that if you want to do if you want to do that sort of show, fair enough, but at least do it with heart and get some good writers.
It's not just the storylines of the DC universe, it's how Jefferson would have been acted. And I'm sorry, but I find it very hard to believe that he would have been a principal in that world that he seems to live in.
Yeah,
A gym instructor, boxing coach, something like that. Not just giving stereotypical, but if you're going to go all the way in, go all the way in. Stop trying to empower and make this person a respectable person in society when you're portraying him like he's a drug dealer.
exactly.
Because he was still treated quite controversially, wasn't he? He was treated just like all of the gangsters and all that. Like, he might be part of the problem. And, like some of the kids at school not really taking him seriously, because you can see he's got that Uncle Tom sort of vibe to him, where it's like, you're not a real black guy because you're like on the other side of the fence. You got a
Yeah,
lot of that in the program, which was like, what? You know what I mean? It's 2017, 18. It's not 1993. We don't need that type of diversity in here.
and I think also in the show they did a little story arc for about 2 or 3 episodes where you had half of the pupils turn against Jefferson and felt that he wasn't doing a good job as the principal, and I think he was suspended for a good couple of episodes before he came
Yeah.
back,
I
because
think I've seen that in the recap. that I watched a
I
few
watched
days
that
ago.
because I've seen all 4 seasons. That was quite a powerful story arc. It's like, well, and I think one of the daughters actually made a sarcastic remark like, "Okay, well, at least you can get to be Black Lightning more, Dad." And he just gave him that look like, "Really?" Again, it's the family dynamic thing comes into play.
Yeah, one of the daughters was like pretty much obsessed with like the Black Lightning and the superhero sort of
Yeah.
aspect, wasn't she? She was like
There was
obsessed with it. And
there was even an episode in Black Lightning where what the younger daughter set up an Instagram account for all the heroes.
it sounds like you've got to see this to believe it sort of situation. Like, did they really have a character doing this type of, superhero 101 sort of stuff? Like, you
Yeah.
don't ever promote the fact that you're a superhero if you're a superhero.
Yeah, she did that, and I remember she was like streaming all her saves and posting it on Instagram, and I
Yeah, yeah,
remember, and
yeah,
in one
yeah.
episode, Jefferson absolutely lost his shit and said, "Right, which one of you girls has got an Instagram account?" He goes, "Right, why have you done this?" Because I just wanted to bring more publicity. He goes, "No, if Tobias sees that one of us has got Instagram, we're effed. Take it down now." I said, "But Dad, look how many hits you got. Look how many views you got." "I don't care. Take it off now, or I will."
Yeah, do you know what? I think that was actually in one of that may have been in the first series, to be fair.
I
I
think
may
it was
have,
one of the later ones. I think it
yeah,
might have been season 3 or 4.
I may now you've mentioned that because something's triggered me. I may have just like locked back in after a few more episodes or stuck around longer than I thought I did. But I can tell you for a fact, I do remember a little bit of that still. It's when I think it was the first daughter where she finally like sort of embraced it and he couldn't do nothing about it. But the other daughter was kind of on the fence about it.
Yeah, she was a bit
Um,
unsure about it. Thought, I'm not sure about this." And I think Gambi encouraged it. He's like, "Look,
yeah, it was
she
in Black Lightning must have caught that Gambi like helping and doing whatever. And that's when he was like, look, so you're helping my daughter because he fell out with him at some point. He was like, you've betrayed me and stuff like that.
yeah,
And to be fair, from earlier, just because of the way that Jeremy Renner's character is in the quest, that he always came across to me like the sort of sneaky, untrustworthy. And he was dressed like a character from the 1950s. What was he doing?
yeah. No, he was a good character though. He was one of my
No, he was a good
favorites.
character, but I couldn't understand like why is he dressed like his character in the quest where he's got like suspenders and not suspenders? Yeah, like for straps like dungaree straps, like
Yeah.
all them things that men like don't wear these days. He was dressed up like that, and I was thinking, what's going on here?
Yeah, and I always thought that guy in another lifetime, if we had ever got the green light for a Batman show, he would have been an excellent Commissioner Gordon.
It could have been Alfred as well. It could still
He
be
could have
Alfred
been
Kent.
Alfred. He could still be Alfred now, but if you put a pair of glasses on him, I thought, damn,
Yeah, yeah.
he could be Commissioner Gordon, and he could have easily have been as good as Gary Oldman because he had that look to him.
You might be onto something. I don't know what he's doing with himself now. I know that he obviously went from being a sort of, I'm not going to use the phrase low budget, but a sort of, middle range actor because he was never like blockbuster. Like, let's not ever imagine that Mortal Kombat Annihilation or The Quest were blockbuster films or The Phantom. They weren't, were they? You know what I mean?
No, but he he was a brilliant actor. I really thought that he kept the interest in the show. Like, at times with Jefferson Pierce, when he'd get on your nerves, I thought, I could do with a Gamby scene right about now. What's he up to? And then you see Gamby like in his workshop doing something. I thought, yeah, I could do with a serious scene
See,
that
Jefferson
helped him
reminded me a bit like a Ron Simmons, sort of like
like a
when
young,
he
like
was
a middle-aged Ron Simmons.
when he was like Farouk, like he was less sort of there was no comedy in him. It was just serious, down to business, beat up people. He came across like that at the same time that he was trying to portray that he was doing everything through the love of his daughters and all that. So it was a bit mad. Like he came across as this really hard-nosed sort of dad and protective sort of father. But at the same time, that's not the traits of a superhero, is it?
No,
You know what I mean? And it's rare because you don't normally get superheroes that have even got kids anyway. So it was rare to see that.
it was, and I think that's what really appealed to me. I thought, okay, he's a principal by day, he's a superhero at night. He's got a wife, he's got 2 children. I thought, okay, so he's a family man. I thought, okay, this can actually have potential to be good if it's written well. Yeah, it didn't quite work out that way.
Yeah, I think there was some point in about 2018 where a lot of these writers just became completely burned out, and obviously
Yeah,
their own theory was, well, we'll just get to the end of whatever the production budget entails, and then when we've got to the end of that, we'll sort of like regroup. And then obviously, as you know, that was where they started to spell the end for the Arrowverse shows and started to say, look, we've probably got to put a stop to this now. Like, the budget doesn't cover anything that we're making here. The series aren't as popular as they used to be. We can't just keep bringing back, you know, Barry and
Yeah.
Oliver and characters like that just for the sake of bringing them back, because obviously, you know, they're the popularist characters that we've got in this world. We're going to have to obviously reset. I think that they didn't expect anything from like Stargirl or anything like that, and it turned out to be a half decent program, especially
I
when they
love
bumped over
Stargirl.
to the HBO network. I think you could clearly see not just the production, the writing was a lot more solid. This program could have really done with maybe the second and third season jumping over to the HBO network or
Oh,
HBO Max.
definitely. I think it needed it really. One question I wanted to ask, because we've kind of like talked about it quite a lot here, but we've never actually just gone straight into it. Do you feel Black Lightning, after the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, when he was officially added to the Arrowverse, do you think it added anything to it, or you don't think it made much difference? Because I really want to touch upon this, because this is kind of like the center of the whole
It,
show.
it could have, it could have, and it may have. But the problem is they already shot themselves in the foot by doing what you said earlier on, which is trying to say that he wasn't any part of that. Now you're not going to look at it like, oh yeah, Black Lightning's finally coming to the thing. It's a little bit like when they brought Spider-Man in. It'd be a little bit more like them saying we can never have Spider-Man as part of the Avengers.
But they ended up doing it anyway.
And then because they knew that the Avengers was failing in the end, they were like, right, we're going to bring Spider-Man in. The fans would have reacted different. Oh, yeah, Spider-Man's in here now, good. But you've only brought him in because you're basically failing.
Yeah.
If they never said the original comment, no one cares.
No.
Like, no one cares and no one thinks it's like, oh, well, it was bound to happen at some stage, like you said earlier on. But the fact that they actually announced it and they knew most fans would have expected it, it's because at first they felt like they wanted to completely distance him away from their failing other shows, but then realized that this show was going to fail anyway. So they decided to just bung him in there. And it wasn't even a great role that he played in the Crisis
Well,
thing.
I mean, how he ended up in there, because I didn't think they were ever going to do it. But I thought, right, if this is supposed to be affecting the multiverse, how does Black Lightning fit into it? I thought he probably won't bother doing anything with him. But there was an episode they did where it showed a countdown. Every scene kept showing the clock ticking. I thought, why do they keep showing
Yeah,
the
yeah.
clock ticking? And then at the end, you see all the family get turned to dust, like just like in the Crisis crossover. And I
That
thought,
was the
oh
countdown on Infinite Earths, wasn't it?
yeah. And then Jefferson starts screaming, "Where's my family? Where's my girls?" No, and he just disappears, and then he ends up in the Arrowverse with Flash, and Flash from like Earth 90. I thought, holy cow, they actually did it.
No.
I thought that was very well done.
If I'm not wrong, some of them knew him, didn't they? They already knew who he was.
Yeah, I think Flash from Earth 90 said, "Oh, I know this guy. I worked with him on my Earth. He can help. He's a hero." And he started like fighting everyone. And said, "Jefferson, listen, this might be hard for you to digest, but the whole universe is collapsing. We need you now." But I thought that was very clever. I thought, okay, so they didn't actually reach out to him. They just brought him in because the world's coming to an end. I thought that was very well done. The thing is, though, with adding him to the Arrowverse, it did add something to it, but I don't think it added that much. It's not like he brought in extra star power, because he hasn't got that. It
Well,
was
they
just
probably were hoping at this stage was what everybody else with any common sense would have been thinking earlier, which is, oh, who's this cool character that's got lightning and stuff? So that's the first time they probably actually garnered. Like, more people would have probably gone back after that moment and watched what Black Lightning was in his series than they would have watched it with when they were saying, oh, he's not part of the Arrowverse. Like, more people would have gone back and watched it after the Arrowverse appearance, which just goes to show they made a really bad decision in the early days to say, we think we can build this character outside of the Arrowverse universe. If I'm not wrong, I think I had this conversation with one of my friends, and at the time I said that. And I said, it doesn't make any sense because within 2 years, they'll probably have him in there anyway. And then everybody will be there going, well, he wasn't good enough. So that's why he's been brought in as a side character in this. It's the same thing that happens in, like, once again, in wrestling. Guys come in with all this hype and all this smoke and mirrors from other companies like Ring of Honor and New Japan, and sometimes they come in and, to be honest, sometimes they're just not good enough.
No.
They're just not on that level.
Well, it's like for me, he was just like another hero. But I think had they brought in Black Lightning when the Arrowverse was just starting, yeah, it would have added more because it's just starting. We're bringing in all different heroes that the films are not going to use. I think it was the case of he came to the party far too late. He should have come when the
Yeah,
party was
yeah.
starting. He came to the party when there was hardly anybody left to party with. I think that's the real truth is about Black Lightning. He should have come when it mattered because he could have been a big name in his own way. But no, it was a case of right place, wrong time, unfortunately for him.
I mean, what, the end of the day, could have been more, could have been less, but at the end of the day, the
It
fact
was
that he got on
four,
TV
four
in the end,
seasons.
it speeds forward because it shows you, like, when you look at the comic books from the Marvel series, it's like, oh yeah, they could have probably done with a few extra characters being in some of these comic books. Looking back now, like, why did they not spread the budget to an extra program of maybe somebody else who could have had a program? Definitely budgetary things, but yeah,
Yeah,
this is the example of what kind of not to do when they just threw everything at the wall. I said a long time before Black Lightning came out that this series and this Arrowverse should have been condensed into villain of the week sort of stories. Like,
yeah,
Oliver has to entail, so in time Oliver would introduce the Flash, and then the Flash would introduce other characters, and maybe like Black Lightning Flash bumps into these characters on his travels, and then eventually you get a Black Lightning centered episode. You could have done it with other characters, once again Firestorm, etc., etc., etc. But I think that the way that they did it, trying to give some of these characters their own 20 episode series, at the height of where their programs were popular, it was overkill, wasn't it? Let's be fair. When you looked at Black Lightning and Arrow and Flash and Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow at this specific stage, sort of season 1, season 2 of Black Lightning, when you looked across the board, none of the programs were popular at that point there.
no, they weren't. And the interesting thing, I think the reason why Black Lightning got cancelled was I just think the ratings was just not
I
there
mean, the
anymore.
fact that it got to season 4 is enough
I know.
for anything, but I can only really rate this on potential and what I've seen for the first couple of episodes and how disappointing it is. So I'm just going to give this a straight rating of 5 out of 10. Like, straight in the middle of, this had so much potential, and because they ballsed it up, it doesn't really matter to me how good the programs were at one stage and how bad they were. It matters that they effed this up from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think for my rating, I will probably give this probably 6. I'll probably give this a
Yeah, that's fair
6.
enough because you watched it all. And obviously, I'm just giving
Yeah.
it a 5 in the middle because I'm just saying, not unwatchable, not popular. So 5 out of 10 for me. I don't normally give low ratings unless the show is an absolute disaster and a horror show. And I didn't get that vibe from the first, say, 15 episodes. I got that there was some potential and there were some characters that they could build on. Obviously, I probably would have ranked this lower myself if I would have carried on watching throughout series 2 and series 3. Maybe I would have given it a 4 or maybe a 3, but who knows? At the stage, I'm just going to give it a 5 because I truly believe that that is a fair rating for how much of that. I mean, it's astonishing that I've managed to have so much input here when I literally only watched at the most 15 episodes of this program.
The interesting thing about this show is that although it finished at season 4, it was left wide open for a season 5. That's really weird because
Yeah, that's what it sounded like when you were just saying that. Like, it got cancelled. It wasn't. It wasn't. All the programs ended now. We've got no more for it. They actually, like you say, they were teetering on whether they were going to allow a season 5 to roll in and a season 5 to come through, which is mad because, yeah, maybe it was more popular after all the Crisis on Infinite Earths or the whatever it was, the countdown to Crisis on Infinite Earths. Maybe after all that, it did get a little popularity spike. It seems like it may have, and they decided, well, that popularity spike is good for this series, but it's not. Let's end on a high. Let's just end it now.
yeah, I definitely got that vibe. They wasn't really trying to like go out on a high note. This just thought, right, let's just wrap up all the story arcs we've got outstanding and just end it quietly because it's embarrassing for everyone involved because it's just not going anywhere. Yeah, I definitely got that vibe too. But yeah, I mean, Black Lightning as a show, probably the weakest of all of the Arrowverse shows, if I'm truly honest.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, to be honest, I would actually put the Batwoman show below this, but I get what you mean because
It was the least known.
it just seemed like for 4 series, this had very little advertisation and input. Like, and I wouldn't be surprised, and I kind of feel that they probably changed the format to the way that everyone in the program was acting, like they did, in Batwoman. That the fact that Batwoman got three series is another astonishment to me. It's like this CW, this version of the Arrowverse between say 2016 and 2019, it was just ghosting on any popularity that the Flash and Arrow had created in the previous 5 or 6 years before. But yeah, I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not just gonna put knives in the back of this. I don't personally
No.
think what I seen that this was the worst series. If I was to rank up the first 10 episodes of every single series, unfortunately, there is no way that Batwoman, I'd be able to rate Batwoman higher than this. Like, I truly believe that this actually was better than Batwoman, but maybe that's just because of the hindsight of me only seeing season 1.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I probably would say Black Lightning and Batwoman, since we've been talking about all of these shows. Batwoman
Yeah.
and Black Lightning were probably the weakest shows out of all of the Arrowverse shows, if I'm truly
I
honest.
didn't like this. I didn't like the latest series of. I mean, guys, you only got to go back and listen to what I've said about them on the other reviews, by the way. So feel free to check them out on Warhawk's channel. But yeah, I didn't like the ending to Supergirl. I didn't like the ending to The Flash. I think it just ran me off. People have to understand that I was one of those people that was massively invested in the Arrowverse during that sort of 2014 period of it going from Arrow to Flash, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow all sort of coming out when you had almost a show every single day of the week. I thought that this universe had so much potential, but pretty much like wrestling, when it becomes unwatchable, it becomes unwatchable. And if you can't invest in characters, I mean, I will say this now because obviously we need to just cover this briefly. This, of course, is our, maybe if we check, it might not be, but this is, of course, our final Arrowverse show that we're talking about. And,
Yeah.
we've talked about the Arrowverse as a whole, but this is where you can see these programs were not strong enough to let the Arrowverse be looked at positively. That's why I was so half and half with the Arrowverse. There was so much good at the start, but all of those programs ended up poison. So there's no way that any of these programs here could have ended up, respectable. They would have
No.
had their moments and they would have had their positives. But in the long run, when you look back at these last 3 or 4 that we've done, they've been pretty negative, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, we have talked about, obviously the positives of all of these shows, and they have got their positives. It'll be bad for us to say that they didn't have positives. They did, but unfortunately, not so much with the earlier shows, but the more later ones, as the ones we've touched upon. They were pretty much the death knell for the entire Arrowverse. If they had kept to just maybe 4 or 5 or 3 the most, maybe things could have turned out differently. But I think it was just the case of the fact that they were spreading themselves out too thinly, trying to do things that they had no business doing, and it cost them in the end. Sorry to say.
Yeah, it did. I agree with that. I fully agree with that there. I mean, the way that the one stage when they were just drawing sort of characters out of a hat sort of situation, we never really knew what we were getting from those types of characters. So it was hit and miss. And then on top of that, of course, the way that they portrayed some of the actual stronger characters towards the end. I truly believe that if they'd have gone with that villain of the week thing, this program would still be around now.
Yeah, probably would have been. If I think if they had gone to HBO Max, they probably would have lasted much longer, if I'm truly honest.
They could have just made a show called like DC Heroes, yeah,
Yeah,
and add it on a Tuesday and a Thursday, or just made it more old school style, back to back half-an-hour episodes, and just had one condensed story or one big double story that leads in with the help of certain characters. I'm not saying they made it campy like the Batman thing from back in the day. I'm saying keep it the format where it's a bit more darker and all that. them programs would have coasted until now. And
Yeah,
then
they
in
would have.
time, the amount of characters, the amount of villains that you could have got through at this point now, you could have ended gracefully now. After all this writers and guild strikes, you could have ended gracefully and said, you know what, we're probably going to give this a bit of a hiatus now. After 10 years, let's focus on the movies. Let's get the movies to come back around. Let's see what we're doing with that. And then we'll come back again. And then HBO could have taken it over and said, right, we want to do it with our characters now.
It is a shame because all this potential, all these characters, and for it to just crash the way it did, it's quite sad, really.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, I agree. I mean, like I say, once again, due to the budgets and stuff like that, it was difficult because it works both ways. Because of course, they didn't spend a lot to make a lot, so it was like, yeah, they didn't ruin anyone's career or anything like that. You know, other people went on to be other people.
yeah, that's true.
It probably built more careers than it failed. You know what I mean, or it
It
destroyed.
probably did, yeah. In the long run, it probably did build a lot of careers. I mean, I don't, apart from Ruby Rose, none of the actors, I wouldn't say have gone on to have bad careers. They've gone on to have quite decent careers.
Obviously, for those out there, we are just talking about the younger, unknown actors. Obviously, we
Yeah,
understand that there are like, Dean Kane, etc. We understand that there are lots of those established actors and actresses in these series across the board of the Arrowverse, like James Renner himself. And I apologize for being calling him Jeremy Raymer. It's too confusing. They've got similar names, to be fair. But yeah, like I say, we're not talking about them. We are just specifically talking about the unknown actors like Grant Gustin, who came along maybe from being in Glee. No one really understood if he was going to be big or not. You know, he will always be known as a TV guy. He's been on TV for years. So he's an actor that you could go to later in life and say, we need someone to play this character for 2 series or whatever. Can you come and play him? He's that guy, isn't he? Whereas when you
yeah,
look at someone
definitely.
like a Stephen Amell, he did have the opportunity potentially to become a bit of a movie star and whatnot after the Arrow. But I think he probably did what we did and he held on too long thinking they're going to give me a movie.
So we are going to wrap this up now. Rex, this has been an absolute pleasure talking about all of these Arrowverse shows and both of us giving our thoughts on what has essentially been the biggest failure, in all honesty.
Yep. Yep. I'd agree with that. I'd agree
Yeah.
with the fact that it is the biggest failure and it's the one that really it did disappoint so much because it was like just at the back end of that. Oh, we're getting a character that I've not really heard. Oh, Black Lightning. Oh, he sounds like he's a good character. Oh, he sounds like, oh, look at him. He's got good part. Nothing.
No,
Absolutely nothing.
no.
Absolutely nothing. This is like nepotism, almost like, oh, we've given you this great character, but we've done nothing with him. This character, and I'm going to say this finally, this character should have been Nightwing or Robin. This should have been his program. If they were going to go diverse, they should have just made him black. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, they should have just done that. Like, this should have been a character that we already knew, 2 series, and then done. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or just bring in the guy from Titans or whatever.
So, what did you think of Black Lightning? Do you think it was a success or do you think it was a failure? And do you agree with me and Rex's rating for this Arrowverse show? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. Rex, this was an absolute pleasure. This was so much fun.
Yeah, mate, pleasure, mate, and we'll do it again, mate. Stay tuned, guys, and I will be here again.
Bye for now, guys.